Excellent. Good morning, Scott. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Arrow. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. Dude, you've got a movie here that I think is going to be featured on t-shirts and posters for the rest of our lives because the characters in this movie are just they come from out of nowhere, but they have impact.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think so too. There's some crazy madcap characters in a crazy madcap martial arts movie. So, yeah, people need to check it out.
Well, you definitely take it up to a new level of play. I mean, it's there's a lot of crashing. There's a lot of there's so much different kind of action in this movie that I found myself going, oh, and laughing out loud at different scenes and stuff like that.
That's the idea. The idea was to be consistently entertaining. I mean, I'm known for my martial arts and action sequences, so that's a given. And we've got some fantastic ones in this movie, and it's jam-packed full of them. But also, when that's not happening, the story really works. The characters are very interesting and unique, and there's a lot of comedy. And I do think the film is consistently entertaining.
Plus, we got to talk about that background scene as well. The places that you guys travel to, and even in some of those scenes where where the fight scenes are taking place, that background is a huge part of what's going on in this storytelling.
Yeah, we went to Malta. So Accident Man, Mike Fallon in the first film is banished from London. So we could have gone anywhere really, just anywhere outside of England. But I'm so happy that we ended up in Malta because you just point that camera at anything over there and it looks beautiful. Great production value.
I think one of I chuckled when I just grabbed any ID and we flew, and I love the idea that you didn't even know where you were going inside the storyline, and you ended up in Malta.
Yeah, and it worked out because it just so happens that he's just a stone's throw away from Africa or Eastern
Right.
Europe or Europe. And so if he has a job and he's got to go and kill someone somewhere, he can get to wherever he needs to go pretty easily.
My master and my sensei in combat karate used to tell me all the time, remember the word arts in martial arts. And I would look at him and he'd go, remember, it's arts. And he reminds me of this Netflix special. I don't know if you've seen the documentary yet, where it's about where martial art movies came from. And I didn't realize it was ballet.
It was ballet. Well, I need to watch this documentary because that'll be news to me as well.
Because I mean, what it did is, and I think that's the reason why I appreciate Accident Man even more. Because knowing the history of martial arts movies, all of a sudden I started studying everything that you guys were doing, and just the art side of telling the story, the body language, and everything like that.
Yeah, well, it's the art of violence, and certainly when we put it on film, it's another sort of art form that's just as valid. The art of action filmmaking
Yeah.
is something that I'm very interested in, and creating shapes and filling the frame with beautiful movement. I mean, you find a lot of dancers are actually better at screen fighting than some real fighters in some regard because it's all about the choreography and expressing yourself on screen.
In a really cool way, would you not say that this Accident Man is like a modern day superhero film in the way that you're taking the characters that really are misfits, but yet you're telling a story that really does have an effect to it.
Well, it's a comic book movie, and it's a comic that I read when I was a kid. I found it when I was 14 years old, and I always dreamt to make it into a film. And this is the sequel to the original Accident Man. And but we wanted to keep it pretty old school
Right.
and real. I mean, it's not a realistic film, is it, with these crazy madcap assassins? But the action is very real. It's hardcore. There's stunt guys, stunt performers, martial artists doing all of it in camera, doing it for real, their own fights, their own stunts. So it's I like that about it. It's a bit more old school.
Well, the fighting looks very real, old school real, in the way that a Bruce Lee movie took place. And well, everything I ever read about Bruce Lee is that they actually did kind of fight in those screens.
Yeah, kind of, kind of, yeah.
Choreography? I mean, it has to driven your mind crazy on how to plan out every single move, and because there's a lot of action taking place.
Yeah, well, it's all about filling the frame with beautiful movement for me, making shapes and just keeping the camera moving and how the sound effects and the slow motion can affect it,
Mm-hmm.
and just but most importantly to tell the story as well through the action and not lose sight of who the characters are, and the tone of the movie should be consistent from the story and the characters through to the action.
That's interesting that you say that, because one of the things that a lot of martial arts movies do is they tire me out. This one really has a great pace to it. Did you guys go back and just say, we need to put something in here, we need to take this out, in order to make the pace so you didn't tire out the viewer?
Wow, if only we had the budget to be able to go back and correct the things that went wrong. Mission Impossible, we are not, I'm afraid. You know what? If you're making a film and you've got a budget of 200 million, there is absolutely no excuse to make a bad film, because they can go and shoot a load of stuff and then they can edit it and they can look at the movie and go, oh, do you know, that bit didn't work here and maybe we need this. We should go back and fix that. We don't have that luxury. We've got one shot to get it right. And if we messed it up, then that's it. That's the movie. So, yeah, I don't know how these big budget movies end up being bad, to be honest.
Yeah, so you play by the independent rules in the way that they always say that indie movies are like doing live television. You're on, spot on. You're on that live stage. Make it happen.
Yeah, you've only got one shot. And, you know, me doing all the action and all the rest of it, if you get injured, if you get hurt, the train has left the station and it's not going to stop. You have to just get on with it. You know, you don't get to shut down the film and repair and then start again when you feel better. It can get pretty miserable.
One of the things that I picked up on in the movie is that it has the action, it has the impact, but as a martial artist, it also gave possibility and opportunity to have a voice, because I always think about that person that's sitting at home that goes, man, I would like to get into martial arts. And this movie is one of those where it goes, I got into it because of this movie.
Well, I hope so. I hope I can inspire some kids to take up martial arts, because it's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
And martial arts has given a lot to me, and it can give a lot to anyone who decides to get involved. You know, I mean, there's many aspects that you can get from it, like obviously defending yourself, but it builds confidence. It will give you self-control and discipline. And certainly my little boy will be starting martial arts soon enough.
You know, it's really interesting. Even today, people come up and when they find out that you're a third degree, they sit there and say, oh, I don't want to fight you. I said, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about being in control of a moment and making sure that you don't get put in a situation where you would have to do that. I hope I never have to use any of this.
Well, a lot of people that haven't had a fight and they feel like they've got something to prove, or they want to test themselves, are the type of people that will get into trouble on the street. But if you are able to train in a controlled environment with respectful senseis and people around you, then you'll get to do it in that controlled environment, and you'll get it out of your system. And then maybe if something does happen on the street, you're less inclined to try and prove something to yourself, because there's nothing to prove. And if you do have to use it to protect you or someone you love, or just someone that needs it, then you'll be able to do that.
At what level of your study did the mind start taking over in the way of making it a spiritual journey? Because it's when I became a second Dan, you know, it's like putting more than just sentences and things together. It's about all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm starting to feel the atmosphere around me. Did you go through a transition like that as well?
I wouldn't say that I've got that heady with it, to be honest, but I just feel that if you test your body, if you bring a little bit of pain and discipline into your physical training, then it will sharpen the mind and it'll make you easier, more able to deal with stressful scenarios, whether it be at work or, you know, the general stuff that we have to go through in life. Especially the last couple of years has been stressful, hasn't it? But if your body is used to a little bit of discomfort, then the mind is as well. And I think that's helpful.
Has your physical therapist also become your best friend, or somebody that's like, hey, I know him by his first name?
Oh yeah, I go to my chiropractor and he's got posters of me up on the wall because I'm there so often.
Yeah, it's not if I get hurt, it's when. And then it was one of those, it's like, okay, how am I going to recover? Because I don't want to be out here 6 weeks without having the opportunity to be inside that dojang.
Oh, just before I get on the airplane to come home, I give him a ring and say, yeah, can you book me in for Monday? I need to come back.
Do you find yourself in a position where, I mean, because this movie is action-packed, it is different than what I've seen with things that you have done, but will you one day do a spy movie in the way of a James Bond?
Um, well, yeah, I kind of did one not long ago called Legacy of Lies that was an espionage thriller. Um, so I'm not averse to it.
Yeah, yeah.
I enjoy this movie, Accident Man Hitman's Holiday, because it's completely, audacious and out there and bombastic and just madcap zany. And then, I like to do the different genres and do something a bit more realistic. And yeah, I like a bit of everything.
Are we going to see you at a Comic-Con at all?
Yeah, might do.
Because I
I
mean,
don't mind.
it's got that impact to it in the way, like you said, from the comic books and stuff like that. But I mean, you've got a clown in it. My God, everybody loves a clown, even though it's a scary ass clown.
Yeah, well, the good thing about Poco is you don't know whether to be afraid of him or to have a good laugh with him. And there's a lot of entertainment value from watching someone that doesn't feel pain get continually smashed through things and over the head with baseball bats. And yeah, he's a fun character, played brilliantly by Beau Fowler in this.
In every film, there's always something that the actor learns. What did you learn from this that you'll grow with?
The production side of it was quite stressful because we have all these problems going on that you'll never know watching the movie.
Right.
Sometimes the creative part of making the film is the last thing you get to do. That's like 10%, and it's 90% problem solving. We had torrential storms in Malta. That they had a whole year's rainfall in a weekend, and we had floods washing away sets, and all this craziness, people turning up with COVID that needed to be isolated, and all that stuff going on. So I learned to roll with the punches, I think.
When you are facing a pandemic like that, and you know that your art has still got to be given life, I mean that you got to protect the entire team. I mean that all of a sudden you're not just the actor. I mean you've got to be a leader as well.
Yeah, tried my best.
Did you document any of that in the way that, because like you said, your son is getting into martial arts and things like that. I mean, somewhere along the line, you're going to have to share the story of how you went through the challenges and the changes of the acting world during a downtime.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we've had a tough couple of years, everyone has, but then I always remind myself that my grandparents, they had it much worse.
Yeah.
And every ancestor before them has had it much worse with the world wars and the trials and tribulations. So I don't think we've done okay, really.
Yeah. So interesting you bring that up, because yesterday on iHeartRadio I was talking about how I don't know if I could go back in time and survive, because we have been simplified in these modern ages, where back then, with the telephone with a cord on it, the things were tougher back then, and I think that we're weaker today than what we were back then.
We
might
are
be
weaker. Yeah.
Yeah.
People need to toughen up. To be honest,
I'm so
we've had it too good.
So true, because I mean, 67 degrees inside our city today, and I'm out here going, oh my God, I'm freezing. And it's like, come on, man. You're from Montana. You shouldn't be freezing at 67.
That's what I'm saying about the martial arts training. It'll give you the edge. It'll test you a little bit more, because you need that in life. And then everything else feels a little bit easier.
It's one of those things that I wish that businesses would teach, because it would help calm down the people sitting inside cubicles.
Probably, yeah.
Probably. Yeah. So what's next for you? Because I know that you are a man that's always on the move.
Well, the next film to come out will be John Wick 4, which I know everybody's very excited for, myself included. So that's March 2023.
How do you plan for something like that? Because I mean, we live in such quick times and things like that. It's already fully produced and everything like that?
Oh yeah, we shot it. It's all completed. They actually delayed the release. It was going to be this summer, and they put it back till March. So, yeah, very excited to see how that turns out. So it was an excellent thing to work on, and I'm a big fan of the John Wick franchise. I think that they're the best, except for Accident Man, of course, but they are the best action movies of the modern era.
So many stories about Keanu Reeves. Is he a man of peace, like we always read and stuff? Because I mean, he just seems to be that guy that has that energy about him.
He's the nicest guy you could ever meet.
I thought so.
Yeah, he lives up to everything you've heard about him. He will, buy gifts for everyone. He will remember everyone's name. He just seems genuinely interested in the people that he speaks to, and very welcoming. And, to be on a big film like that, he's just so welcoming and just so interested in everyone around him. He's great. But when he puts when they say action and he goes into John Wick mode, it's pretty intense as well.
Wow. You're the forever student, aren't you?
Yeah, I do love the art of filmmaking, and I'm always trying to learn off the people that I work with. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's been a blast to watch you grow, and you will continue to grow, sir.
Thanks a lot, Aaron. I appreciate you talking to you again.
You bet, man. Please come back to the show anytime in the future, man, because the door is always going to be open for you.
Thanks a lot, mate. That's brilliant.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Aaron.